They're from Europe. Brought those from Czech Republic. How big is that exhibit for Slovakia?
It's 4 costumes, like including like the mask, but it's not any bigger.
Good afternoon and welcome to the October edition of Coffee and Kolaches at the National Czech and Slovak Museum and Library. I'm Cecilia Rakusek, the President and CEO, and it's a real pleasure on this lovely fall day in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to not only welcome those of you in our viewing audience, but we also have a live crowd here today. We're doing not only from the computers and from your iPhones and from your tablets, but we're also doing a live one. So we welcome our guests here that are here for the live coffee and Kolache. It's a real honor for me today to welcome someone who is with our museum and has really helped build this museum into the great icon that it is, and that's Stephanie Cohen, our curator. And Stephanie is going to tell us about an upcoming new exhibit that we are so excited about. As you know, Stephanie has a permanent exhibit, which is Faces of Freedom, which talks about our beautiful immigrant story and our search for freedom and democracy. But then we have 4 galleries that change throughout the year. And I am just so proud of what Stephanie and her colleague Tricia Bender have done for this new exhibit that's going to open up this month. And so, Stephanie, welcome.
Well, thanks.
Tell us all about this wonderful exhibit. I remember talking to you about it several years ago, and now it's a reality.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's been done like this ever.
I don't think so either, because I think you brought it to my attention that the beads that used to be thrown in Mardi Gras, New Orleans, were actually Czech glass beads. So that's all I needed to hear, was there's a connection between Czech beads and Mardi Gras to decide we should do an exhibit. So it's called Magic and Mystery, Mardi Gras and Carnival Traditions, and it starts Saturday, October 29th, and we'll have it all the way until March 19th of 2023. So it'll be up for a while. I wanted to make sure it was up for next year's Ash Wednesday and Fat Tuesday. So it'll kind of be up at the right time. And this has been really fun to do because most people who are familiar with Czech and Slovak heritage know that we have Masopust and Fascianji. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, those are what is called in Czech Republic and Slovak Republic. Carnival in lots of other parts of the world is what it's called. We just say Mardi Gras here in the United States. So it's kind of comparing the Czech and Slovak versions of Carnival with what goes on in the United States. So that's kind of the focus of the exhibit. And we've worked with the National Museum in Bratislava, the National Museum in Prague, and with 2 wonderful museums in the United States, the Mobile Carnival Museum, which is in Alabama, and then the Coastal Mississippi Mardi Gras Museum, which is in Biloxi, Mississippi. So not even New Orleans. We're getting all kinds of wonderful things from other places in the South, because the history of Mardi Gras in the United States is a lot more varied than you might think. We just take it for granted that New Orleans has the big extravaganza that it does. So we're borrowing artifacts from those 4 institutions, and we're also having some of the NCSML's own glass beads on display, because until about the 60s and 70s, when they introduced those plastic beads that are thrown at the carnival parades and New Orleans parades, those used to be actual real Czech glass bead necklaces that people were throwing. Yeah, so people are actually getting, you know,
that's great,
something as wonderful as Czech glass beads. So we're just, you know, really excited about it. It is kind of a different topic, hoping it's a lot of fun, you know, and then I really like doing the cross-cultural comparisons, because Masopust and Fascianji are so different from what we see in New Orleans. It's just, I think there's just a lot of differences there. So, you know, New Orleans and France and Brazil and Italy, they have this really beautiful pageantry by Mardi Gras and a lot of elaborate costumes, whereas up in Czech Republic and Slovakia, it seems a lot more ancient tradition. It's cold usually there, and then the people are having processions, and they're wearing a lot different types of costumes. They're not wearing beaded, you know, bikini outfits with feathers coming out of them. You know, they're wearing, like, they look like a bear or like a chimney sweep or like a butcher, and there's meanings behind all of these costumes. So that's what the exhibit's going to kind of really explain, show the differences, show some of the costumes, talk about some of the symbolism behind it too. So there's a lot of interesting things going on.
Well, I mean, I'm just so thrilled that you went ahead and did that, because most people don't realize, you know, we talk about the impact of Czechoslovak, we'll use that term because that's when it was Czechoslovakia, around the world, and these beads really were a major factor in the carnival that we think of here, or especially in New Orleans and through cities in the South that have Mardi Gras parades. But you know, the muscle puss, I'm glad you're going to talk about muscle puss and Fashangi, because muscle puss, it's very interesting. That is that I grew up in a very, very focused tradition for muscle puss. It was the Monday and Tuesday before Ash Wednesday. You always had a big dance, and you danced Monday night, you danced Tuesday night, but at midnight it closed down. And on Monday night, you ate till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. People would take off from work. And the one thing I always remember my mother and my grandmother is they made a table full of something called goblehe, filled donuts. And they're a fried filled donut of dough, and you fill them with lots of poppy seed or apricots or cherries, and then you cover them with poppy seed. And that was a big, big traditional, maybe we should get some here for the opening.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, I mean, I have a whole section, or it's more like some panels and some photos, because I don't have real food in the exhibit, but talking about the food traditions, because the whole Mardi Gras in French means Fat Tuesday, and there's a massopust and carnival are words that mean farewell to meat or goodbye to meat. Fasiangi is kind of comes from a German word that means running around crazy. So I mean, there's and Shrove, we say Shrove Tuesday in some of the British Isles, and that's because it comes from some ancient verb. I think it's shrive, which means to confess, because people were supposed to confess. In the more Protestant regions, you were confessing your sins on the day before Ash Wednesday, and then Ash Wednesday starts Lent. So that's the reason for all this craziness going on with Carnival and Mardi Gras, because Lent is going to start on Ash Wednesday, and then you can't have all this dancing and festivities, and there used to be a lot of dietary restrictions. And so that's where all these fried foods come in, because you had to use up, one time you had to use up all the ingredients in your pantry, but also you weren't going to be allowed to eat them till Easter. So it's one last chance. So I have learned about the hog slaughtering, and the Czech and Slovak republics have a big pork feast. And then
Zabijačka.
Yes, zabijačka. And then the Czech and Slovak fried donuts, and everybody seems to have some kind of fried donut. So we have, the French have the beignet, which we all love, and they have in New Orleans too. And Germany has crepe. Poland has punchki, which I love punchki. And Italy has cannoli, which goes back to the Middle Ages, actually, the creation of cannolis. And then in Finland, there's a really interesting thing, which I wrote it down because I can't really pronounce it, but it's laskiaspula, and it's a cardamom-spiced bun with cream. And a lot of the Northern European countries have that. So everybody seems to have some kind of treat that you use up all these fat and lard, because the dietary restrictions in the Middle Ages, you couldn't even use lard during Lent. So no fat, no sugar, no meat, and no eggs sometimes too, and so I'm not sure what people were eating, and I guess they're eating fish and vegetables. I don't know what's left.
A lot of potatoes, a lot of potatoes.
So I think that's really interesting, the food traditions, and then also I learned that in the British Isles and Canada and Australia, then by extension, they have Pancake Day. So instead of a fried donut, they have a tradition of making pancakes out of all their ingredients, and then back to the 1400s, there's a village in England, I think it's called Olney, where they have a pancake race, where women are running a race and flipping pancakes in their pan while they're running the race. So it's pancake day for them. And then of course in America we have the king cake. So that's a delicious dough. I think it's a yeasted dough with cinnamon, and sometimes there's the baby hidden in it, a little plastic baby, which some people say it means you're the king of the party. Some people means you have to throw the next party if you find it in your piece of cake. I mean, there's different little favors in it. So just really interesting how there's a similarity in that you're using up fat things because you can't have any more all during Lent, and that's another reason for all the revelry, is because in the Middle Ages, like the Catholic Church didn't allow even weddings during Lent. There was no celebrations allowed during Lent at all. So a lot of people in Czech Republic and Slovak Republic, what was then the Czech, Bohemian lands or whatever you want to call it, back in the Middle Ages, there were a lot of weddings that happened during Masopost or Fasiangi, because you couldn't get married once Lent started. No more weddings. So there's a lot of weddings happening in like February. So that was also part of the festivities.
I love it. Well, you know, there's always one exception that I remember, and I don't know if you found anything in yours, St. Joseph's Day, which was on March 19th. That was the one day you could sort of eat meat, you could sort of have fun, you could do a few things. St. Joseph's Day.
St. Joseph's Day,
Yeah, but that was the only exception. I remember as a young girl, I could never understand why we only had those Skobla hit that Monday and Tuesday, and then we had to wait till after Easter to have them. I wanted some, but you just had to really sacrifice.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about some of the highlights of the exhibit so people know to come. And again, for those of you that are on Facebook Live and YouTube, we have a live audience today. So this is something new. Some of you are out, and we're actually serving kolaches. So those of you at home are not getting your kolaches. So tell us about the exhibit, the opening, and who's all going to be involved.
Well, we're going to have, there will be a member preview opening on Friday, the 28th of October in the evening, but the exhibit opens to the public on Saturday, the 29th. And we're getting some really interesting costumes and pieces of costumes from the American South, particularly the Mobile Carnival Museum in Alabama. They are sending us a beaded costume like that somebody wore to a ball, because that's a big thing in Mardi Gras in the United States, is a lot of balls where you dress up, and sometimes they're mass balls, but sometimes you're just wearing like really gorgeous gowns, and the men too. I mean, we're getting quite a few men's costumes for this exhibit. It's interesting. So, and we're getting a piece that I believe is like a train. I'm not sure what the word they use for it. It's like a train for a gown, and it is all check beads.
Wow.
So it's from Alabama, but it's all check beads. So that will be very interesting. And then the Coastal Mississippi Mardi Gras Museum from Biloxi, they're sending, I think, 10 different outfits from all throughout the 20th century, you know, of mostly beaded, very elaborate, lots of feathers and headdresses and things. And then to contrast that, from Slovakia, we're having 4 more traditional costumes, like the butcher and these kind of more creepy, sinister-looking things to us. You know, it looks more like Halloween to us, like, you know. And then similar things from the National Museum in Prague too. So very, very traditional.
Okay, well that sounds really exciting. And what people don't realize is that these early, and I think the next challenge we're going to give you is the Native American, because I find out that a lot of Native American beads were Czech as well. So
yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah,
but I knew this one because they talk about how the fact that those were the most beautiful beads is the Czech beads that they have.
Yeah, and we have some in our collection, and I've acquired some more for the exhibit. And what's interesting is you would never know that they're Mardi Gras beads, because you know the traditional colors of Mardi Gras is gold, purple, and green, and those are not the traditional colors in anywhere else but Mardi Gras. But that's the beads are not those colors. You would just think it's a necklace. You know, you wouldn't realize that they had been part of Mardi Gras parades, but they're apparently in the antique stores in the South. You can find them, and they are called Mardi Gras beads. So they're not the same as the plastic ones you have now that are purple, green, or gold. You know, that's. So they just looked a little different. You would just never know. But so it's pretty exciting. We went and looked in our own collection and thought, you know, there is this thing that we just thought was costume jewelry, but it could very well have been, you know, from a Mardi Gras. Some of the things in our collection, because people don't always know how they acquired their necklace. So we think that some of us must have been Mardi Gras beads too.
And I think for our members that come for that member-only event, we may even have some beads for them, right?
I think so. I thought I heard that somebody had acquired some beads for kind of a favor to
That's the truth and the honest story is that about 6 years ago, I went to my first Mardi Gras, and I collected 72 pounds of beads. So I got to the airport, and I had to talk my way out of that one. So we might have some beads available.
Yeah.
These are not Czech beads, so unfortunately.
No, they don't have them anymore at the Mardi Gras. And it's interesting because you know, those are real glass beads. They're not lightweight if they're throwing those at people, because now I think it's plastic, and
it
so
is
they're not going to hurt anybody.
But they actually have the collector's ones that have usually a medallion. Different groups have the different, you know, the different troops.
The crews
have their, and so I was at a great location, I went to they have like bunches of parades. Every day there are 2 or 3 parades. And we had a seat on a bleacher, and the guy beside me, he wanted things for his grandchild because they threw out like little toys and things like that. I wanted beads. So I would catch things and we would change each other. And literally I had to leave in the hotel a pile like this because I only took the better ones. And it is just an amazing experience to go there for the Mardi Gras.
Oh yeah, I haven't been. That does sound exciting.
We'll have to bring it to.
Yeah. And some other things in the exhibit we're going to have. We're working with Metro High School, and they're creating sort of a partial float so that people can go in the exhibit, and if they get tired of looking at all the cool stuff we have on display, they can decorate the float a little bit. So we'll have things available, and I think that'll, you know, the kids might be kind of interested in, like, they'll get to like help decorate a float. It's not a real one, it's an imitation that the Metro kids are making, and they also are making some masks over there with some of their equipment at their high school. Some paper mache masks. I think that we're going to have an area with a lot of masks and beads and umbrellas and different things where people can take their picture. So kind of just have a little fun selfie moment in a little corner of the gallery. So Metro's making us some really cool masks, and we're also going to have an area where people can design their own masks. So several little interactive going on kind of in different parts of the exhibit, and we're trying to get some music. We don't want it to be like 100% Dixieland jazz, because that might start getting on people's nerves. Some people are saying, I don't want to listen to that for hours on end. So we're trying to figure out, you know, what music makes you think of Mardi Gras in addition to that, which is great. But, you know, so still kind of working on, is there traditional music in Czech Republic or Slovakia? I'm getting the idea it's mainly just, you know, dance music and bands and like you would have at any kind of celebration. So we're working on that.
We should probably ask our student here. He's very music. We have a PhD student now with us from Pulaski University, and he'll be until December. I know he likes music, so maybe we better ask Jakob what he thinks. But that's a great idea, because if you do the jazz, but I'm thinking about the Mardi Gras parades. They do play jazz plus they have marching bands too, and I think so that
and in Brazil they have like sambas and things, you know, that people are dancing to in their parades. So there's a lot of different music out there, like worldwide, for this celebration.
Oh, that's great. So anything else about the exhibit? It sounds so wonderful.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and I thought I would also mention that in December we're opening up, sadly the exhibit about the Chicago Bears will be going away at the early November, but in December we'll be opening up an exhibit with photographer Hansa Sakaj, and that's a really interesting photography process. It's black and white photography, and he uses, he has a technical name for it, but it's like I don't want to say daguerreotype. It's like the old-fashioned photography with metal plates, but he's using old equipment, but then he's printing it. He's not printing it on metal plates, but it's very interesting, his whole process of creating these pictures. So he's giving us loaning us for this exhibit a series. It's called Memoryscape, and it's Moravian landscapes. So that'll be very different. You'll have the Mardi Gras going on in one gallery, and then this photography in the other one. So that's kind of what's coming up on the horizon for really the rest of the winter for us.
Wow, that sounds great. And then a little sneak preview into what's coming up beyond?
Well, we're hoping to have a Garnet exhibit from the National Museum in Prague. We're still working on it, but that's our hope for next summer. So that would be a really big deal, because that's probably our most popular exhibit ever. I've been here for 20 years. 20 years this month. My goodness, how exciting.
Oh, happy anniversary. Happy anniversary.
No, it's 23 years. Oh my gosh.
I was going to say, I thought it was over 20, but
I just never know how old I am. 23 years.
Well, you all know she started when she was 10 years old. So,
so anyway, the Garnet exhibit hands down was the most popular exhibit here, most attendance. People keep asking about it. So we definitely are working with the National Museum, and they're willing. I mean, they're working with us. It's just there's a lot of logistics to work out. So that's our big hope for next summer of 2023, to have a Garnet exhibit from the National Museum, and beyond that, you know, there's an exhibit about fabric and costume design that's at the UPM, what is that called? Museum of Decorative Arts in Prague, that we would love to be able to bring over. So they're kind of working on those for next year.
We're doing a great job. Well, it's amazing, because people think, well, I've been to the National Czechoslovak Museum before, but what they don't realize is that we have all these new exhibits coming and going all the time.
About 10 a year.
So that's really
Big and
important for
small,
everybody
yeah.
to know that it's not a place you just come to once and say, I've been there. It's a place that you come to and say, wow, I didn't know that. And so just so everybody would know that. And I think it's really important, too, that people understand that we have the permanent gallery, but you even do tweaks to the permanent gallery. You make,
About once a year we go in
Yeah.
there. We definitely change out the Croix because they can't be on display permanently. They get about a year, and then we take them all away and put all new ones in because we have so many, we want to share them all, and plus it's just not good for something to be on display. Like a textile shouldn't be out forever. It's going to have light on it and dust on it. A piece of glass doesn't care if it's out for 100 years. Nothing's going to happen to it. But so we do change those out, make some little tweaks to the permanent gallery for sure. And I just wanted to tell about a really interesting acquisition we just got this week. It was just a really delightful Marionette Theater. So a woman came from her family. She thinks maybe her father got it in the 1920s. I think she's right, but it's a really interesting, it has the original box and all the marionettes, and then the box becomes the stage, and there's backdrops behind it, and she has pictures of how they used to put puppet shows on, like for their kids or whatever. She showed pictures of it. So we're really excited about it. I just love those marionettes, and so it's always fun when we get something like that, like a little kit in there. So that's something. And it's a few years from now, we'd like to do another exhibit about puppets and marionettes. I mean, this is several years in the future. We're always thinking several years ahead for our exhibits to try to figure out what we're going to do, because sometimes it just takes a couple of years to work everything out. That's just the way it is. So puppets is on the horizon maybe in 2026. So that's pretty far away.
And we're working with the Czechs to maybe even this summer, but we're hoping to get funding for it, where we would have a summer workshop for children, a week-long work where they would actually make puppets. They would actually come out and have a marionette one, and so we'll have to keep our fingers crossed that we get it. We're working with the Czechs on that one.
That would be fun.
But I'm so glad, Stephanie, that you mentioned the issue with the acquisition, because so many times I'm asked as I travel around the country, why is the museum in Cedar Rapids, Iowa? I very quickly say because that is the right place and the best place and the only place for it to be, because at one point we still have a lot of Czechs here, but we're the center of America. And people came here as immigrants to the center of America, and it's a great place to come to learn about real America, the Midwest, as we say. But people also need to know that if you have acquisitions at home, if you have Croix, if you have really valuable, let Stephanie know, or Dave, if you have library books or any archival music, sheet music, or anything like that, to please let Dave Molina in our library, we'll have him on sometime, and Stephanie know, and talk to them, because we don't want it to be thrown away, and we want it, once it's donated to the museum. I would tell you a funny story about you. She likes a Croix that I have, and I say you can't have it till I'm dead. But the point is that once it's given, I still want to wear it. That's why, because once you have a Croix, you give it to the museum, no one can wear it. It becomes the property of the museum. So that's an important thing to know, that once you give something as an acquisition to the museum, it becomes the property of the museum, and it cannot be loaned out. It cannot be.
Well, it could be loaned to another museum.
To another museum, only to another museum.
Right.
But we don't wear the Croix, for example. The Croix stay here. So that's really important to know. So when we wear Croix, those are my extras that I have at home and I put in the closet up here. So, this is so exciting. So again, give us the dates when it opens. So
October 29th, Saturday, October 29th until March 19th of 2023. So
everybody
see it over Christmas. There's plenty of time to see it.
Bring your family here over the holidays. Come to see if you're passing through. And we really recommend that people look online, because we do always post our exhibits, we post our activities. And I just want to take a minute before I let Stephanie have the last word. For those of you that are members, you got in the mail our most recent most. And we really want to encourage people to join our museum, because it is filled with news. For example, the opening article is about the Czechs' leadership in the European Union and about the Slovaks' leadership in the V4. But then we have a really, I think, fine updated list. The staff have done a wonderful job of looking at activities. And two that I want to especially point out, we had a brass band the other night and had over 100 people. We love that. But on October will soon be over, but we have the exhibit. We also have a wonderful, wonderful book review on 2 nights, on both October 19th and 20th. We have a book review by Michelle Patrick, and Michelle is the author of the book Haunted Prague. And I read the book, it's wonderful, and she's going to give us a book review. So mark your calendars for October, and I think we're also going to be broadcasting it. Is that correct, Logan? Yes, so it will be, but October 19th and 20th are 2 nights that Michelle Patrick's coming.
20th is during the day, it's at noon.
Right.
Yeah.
It's at 1, actually, they have them both at 7 p.m.
No, I think we were talking about that yesterday, the 20th is actually during the day, so that's
gonna be
helpful
at
for
2.
people who want to see it during the day.
So it'll be on the 20th at noon, or 2 o'clock?
I thought it was noon. See,
Noon.
that's-
Well, stay tuned, but if not, we'll let you know. That's the thing, is that we try to get it out so people can get it on their calendars and then get tweaked. But we do know on the 19th it's at 7 o'clock, so mark your calendars for that. And then in November, this is a big one. By popular demand, on November 10th at 7 o'clock, Esther Pavlou, who is the opera singer from the Prague Opera, is coming by a return performance, Esther Pavlou. So please mark on your calendars to be here on November 10th, because to get Esther Pavlou is like, I saw her this summer in Prague in Carmen, and she was magnificent. And she was here last year and brought the 4 standing ovations. So, and she wants to come back, so she'll be here on November 10th. So be sure you mark that down. And then on December 2nd, we're having our first real Christmas concert, and that's going to be another singer from Prague, and her name is Martina Bartova, and she is going to be here on December 2nd at 7 o'clock for a Christmas concert. So those are 2 things kind of in the immediate. But if you're not a member, to get this wonderful, wonderful Most Newsletter, we're trying to make it more newsy now, and we have lots of good stories in here. So this one just came out. Most of the people in our audience here live, I think, got one. And so, and then if you are a member, you'll also get Slovo. And this is the last Slovo, but the new Slovo that's coming out is about technology in our homelands, about what's happening about technology in the Czech and Slovak republics. It's at the editors right now. So, and then our next Slovo after that one is when you're taking a big leadership role in. I know you have an article.
About Moravia.
About Moravia. It's going to be Treasures of Moravia. So we'll focus about Moravia.
Yep, I'll be looking in the collection about all our Moravian things, which we have plenty. We have a lot of Croy from Moravia,
Yeah,
for
Moravia
sure.
and
Very beautiful
Slovakia.
ones,
Yeah. I think Moravia, don't you think Slovakia have the most beautiful Croy?
Every region has some beautiful ones.
I always think Moravia and Slovakia.
Yeah, Slovakia has some really nice ones.
Yeah. But anyway, they do have beautiful Croy. And then in next winter, the Slovo is going to be on the 30-year anniversary of freedom. Both the Czech and Slovak nations are 30 years old next year. So we're going to have a whole section on what it means to be free and what it means to be 30 years later. And then in November, stay tuned. For those of you that like to use your computers, we are planning 2 webinars from Slovakia by Pavel Demiš, who is, some of you probably know him. Pavel, he was here with President Havel when he dedicated the museum in '95. Now he's an advisor in Slovakia to the government, and he's going to be a fellow here next year, but he's doing 2 webinars for us in November. One is going to be on, is democracy in peril right now, and the other one is the energy crisis in our homeland. So stay tuned. Those will be 2 good webinars that Pavel will be presenting in November. So next year, we want to do more. You've got your program all set up. Congratulations. But for our program set up, we are going to have a music series, a lecture series, and a community engagement series. So watch in November for those to come out, and they should be exciting. We have all of our music programs planned already. We're working on the lecture series, and then the community engagement is almost full. It's going to be tours by Kevin Hunter, Stouffer Hunter?
Mark Hunter.
Mark Stouffer Hunter. And so a bunch of other stuff. So stay tuned, and hopefully we'll continue to have live Kolaches and coffee. And are there any questions?
Yeah, Beth on Facebook would really like to know if there will be another exhibit on glassware. People just love the glass cabinet by the gallery opening.
Yeah, well, we just closed our Formed in Fire, which was the Joyce Anderson collection, which was really beautiful. So we're not having a big exhibit on glass anytime soon. We'll just keep filling those cases in the in the hallways and in the grand hall with the glass.
And this is the year of the glass too.
I know, International Year of Glass.
And just so you would know, our store and Andreas Sieberman and Mandy Meyer have done an absolutely phenomenal job. Almost everything we have in the store now is made in the Czechoslovak republics, almost everything. And Marge Nadel's new ornaments are coming out soon. But be sure you look at the glass. We've got Mosier glass, which is stunning, stunning, stunning. And then she's got some other Czech and Slovak glass. So be sure you look in the store or come and visit us or give them a call. They can tell you what they have online too. Are there other questions, Logan, or from our audience, our live audience? Are there any questions at all? No questions at all? Final word for you, Stephanie.
Oh, well, come see Magic in Mystery, Mardi Gras and Carnival traditions. It's been a lot of fun to work on it, and we're just hoping it'll be kind of glamorous and spooky at the same time. That's kind of the combination we've got. Glamour meets terrifying.
Okay. Well, congratulations on it, and thank you
Thanks.
for all you do. And thanks to our audience of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. We're so glad you're here, and Logan 9. And we'll see you all next month on Coffee and Kolache.